Welcome, everybody. My Wi-Fi is showing very weak, and there is a little bit of sound, but we are amazingly happy to see everybody this morning. It is Thursday, and Linda has an amazing topic to talk about today. I think that it's really important, and actually from this is going to come a different live that Linda and Lydia and I both that will run. And we'll probably start doing some things around it, but community outreach is huge. And Linda and Lydia have done it the entire time I've known them. I used to run a food bank. We fed 300 people a week in Commerce City, Colorado. Um, there's a lot of needs and a lot of things going on in the world that people really misunderstand. They read tabloids and they read headliners, and those things tend to misdirect the conversation. And one of the things that they do is they take out the humanity of the victims or of the people who are actually the focal point of that story. Um, and they turn it into religion, or they turn it into race, or they turn it into this, or they turn it into that, and they forget the humanity of it. They forget that we're humans, and humans deserve to have space and time for themselves, as well as they deserve to be anywhere in this planet that they want to be. We're humans. We're allowed to travel. We're allowed to be in different places, and where people originate from are unsafe at times. America is unsafe at times. There's places where you're at the lower end and you want to try to get to the higher end, and there's places where you just want to be safe. And unfortunately, people choose to not allow safety around other people. They choose violence. They choose they choose to be political. They choose to be rule makers and people who follow the law to the T, without even taking into consideration what's going on. And so I would really like everybody to just open your ears and open your heart into this conversation, because depending on your political views, or depending on your religious views, or if you're listening and you're a racist, you're not going to be happy. I'm going to say that. And I say that because I grew up with them. I grew up with people who were racist, and it was very difficult. I have mixed family members, and it was not fair. It wasn't nice. It wasn't kind. So I have a no tolerance when it comes to racism. And political views, it kind of, if you're being political on a racist kind of aspect of it, that it's the same thing, guys. So really open your eyes, open your ears, and just understand that this conversation is a conversation about humans and humanity. And yeah, I think Linda and I are going to create some other conversations in a different live, because we do honor that this is a space for business. And Linda asked me today, she was like, well, I was like, well, if that's what's on your mind, talk about it. And she said, well, but we're supposed to talk about business. And my response is if as businesses, we're ostriches with our heads in the sand, we're not going to be able to take care of the people around us. If our business is not focused on what can I do to help the community. I was running a food bank, and it was in a church, and when it got a new pastor, the pastor killed my food bank. And his response was, the food bank isn't feeding the church. And my response is, the church is supposed to feed the community. And that is what businesses are supposed to do as well. We are supposed to feed and grow our community so we can be healthy. Everybody got upset about the Rhino district getting all uppity and whatever. And yes, there was different things in that situation where we could have helped the people there as opposed to make people move out. But facelift it to the community and the creativeness, that still would have been great had the community been involved in that, right? Had we been able to, let's facelift the whole neighborhood. Everybody calls it gentrification.
It
When
is. It's turning
we
it into white neighborhoods.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly, and so when you do that, take into consideration, "Hey, I came into this neighborhood, and I actually want to make sure the people who live here are being facelift and that they get to have what they need, not, 'I'm gonna raise the rent, and everybody's gonna have to leave.'" So if your intentions are to make something beautiful, don't forget the people who already live there. With that, off of my soapbox. It's your
And
turn, Linda.
and you said that very well. What prompted this conversation is Lydia and Monica and I spent yesterday afternoon. Denver has had a massive influx of South American refugees that are being bused here, shipped here like cattle from some of the border states. And I understand that their resources down there are overwhelmed as well. But they don't treat these people like people. They're treated like cargo or like animals. And the story, we worked with a family yesterday. It was a family of 5, and I'm not sure the full trajectory of how it works, but they got to Denver. They've been in a hotel that the city bought and turned into a refuge center. They've had their room for a month, and at the end of the month, their belongings are put on the curb and they're out, and they're removed from the system so that they cannot stay. And you have to understand, they come across, and if they have papers, many of them don't get them back. They don't have identification. The lady we talked to, her immigration hearing, she does have her papers. They return them to her. Her immigration hearing is not until February of 2025, which means she can't work. How are they supposed to earn money? Where are they supposed to go? So this is transitional housing, but there's no place for them to transition to because they have to have money. They have to have jobs. And I, under, I understand that the mayor has a good heart, but I don't think he thought through his plan. And at least in our neighborhood, the hotel, the government person running that hotel is not kind. The families are fed 3 times a day, and if they miss the meal, they have to wait till the next one. They cannot take food to their rooms. Every so often, they send the workers up to each of the rooms and throw a bunch of things away that they assume are trash because they're in trash bags, and it's their belongings. And so yesterday there was a family of 5 that their time was up. And yeah, it was 55 degrees yesterday, but by 4 o'clock, it got down to below freezing again last night. So we only had a few hours to find a place for this family to go that would be warm and safe. And
Linda, I don't wanna miss this point though. You're saying that everybody has 1 month in a hotel, and I would like everybody to understand that in order to rent your own home, to rent, you need to have almost $5,000
yeah,
with deposits, first, last, whatever those requirements are. If you're talking about a family
and
of
you have to have a
5.
steady income. And you have to have a
Right.
steady income.
You have to have a steady income, and they require 3 months worth of income, right? They ask you to back check 3 months for that check stub. So when you're talking about, "We're going to house these people for 1 month and expect that they have the next place in line," they don't know any resources to utilize. They don't know where they're going. They can Craigslist all day long, but they don't have 3 months of work. They don't have and it takes almost 2 months to get a job half the time. And then with what you're saying, like you said, there's no card. They're illegal. They're not allowed to work. So then how do they get a job? So that 1 month is not giving any time of any sort to help. Even if they wanted to go mow lawns and make money under the table, they couldn't. In a month, could not come up with $5,000 just to get into a place, nor could they have the back, uh, the back
Yeah,
income to
the
improve.
back income. It's and this family, their kids were, I want to say 9, 6, and 3. And I'm sorry, but how can anyone's heart be so hard that they can just put them on the curb? And what really got to me is then they're erased from the system like they don't exist. These are people, these are human beings. They have they have the right to have their basic human needs met. And the horrific trip they made to get here, they left, they were in Caracas, and that's an extremely dangerous place to be. It's very corrupt. So the police and the government agencies there are corrupt, and so that's not safe for people who are not involved in drugs. And so they left, and they took their whole family, his parents and everybody, and they walked to Peru. And they've been in Peru for 3 years, and that was no longer safe. He sent his parents back to Venezuela because they were not healthy enough to make the trek through the most dangerous jungle in the world for migrants coming out of Peru trying to get to the United States. And then these 2 young parents and their 3 young children walked through this horrific jungle. It took them a month to get to Mexico, and then a month to get to the United States border. And they were very blessed that day to have Border Patrol that actually were trying to help them get across and greeted them and helped them. Some of the Border Patrol isn't very helpful, but these people were. And so she was able to get her papers back. And so she's ahead of the game that way. But my thought behind this is it doesn't matter what your political views are. Shouldn't matter any of that, because these are human beings. And these are not the drug runners. The drug runners don't leave their countries because they have it good there. There's no reason for them to leave. They're making tons of money that they would not make here. And these people are not carrying drugs. They're not mules. These are families trying to protect their children and give them a better life, hoping that they will survive outside of their teens. And I feel dismayed. What has happened to us as a country, as a people, that we can be so hard-hearted to look at these people and say, you don't count, you don't matter. And granted, we have our own poor and disenfranchised here in the US, and we treat them just as badly. It's not just about the migrants coming across the border. This is about, we have a country full of people that are born here, raised here, that need a helping hand, and we treat them, if we talk about them at all and acknowledge them at all, we don't acknowledge them as human beings. We acknowledge them as a problem. We acknowledge them as an issue. We acknowledge them as things to be fixed. No, they're human beings. And this is kind of the core of my work. And I can't tell you how yesterday almost broke me, because I can't look around and understand how the city that I love, the country that I love, has turned into something that can be so cruel. Our country was founded and built on people like them. Unfortunately, we took total advantage of the people that were already here. And that's another whole dynamic. But yeah, so that's kind of where my headspace is today. And I know it has nothing to do with peak performance, but in a way it does, because I had to acknowledge this today in order for me to be able to continue on with the things that I need to do. And that's kind of part of what peak performance is if you've got something that's interfering with what you need to get done, you don't bottle that up, you acknowledge it, you work through it, and find a way for it to motivate you and move you forward in whatever it is you're doing. And so I'm going to take all that pent up anger and frustration today and try to do something positive with it.
Right. Well, and I know I said a little bit about the 30 days, and I know that we're going to
Yeah.
have people who come in and they're going to talk about the laws. I used to work in a hotel, and there is such thing as squatter rights. If you are in a hotel for longer than 30 days, there's all kinds of legalese, and you have to actually be like evicted. And so the fact that they're kicking people out at that 30-day mark
Mhm.
is very difficult. And legally, if they don't, there's a lot of other things that have to come from that as well. So, but there's options. There's room changes. Hey, we'll rent this room to you for the next 30 days. We'll do this. We'll move you to this hotel. And it doesn't sound great, and it doesn't sound amazing, but they're victims of people who took advantage of kindness. They're victims of people who were like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna squat here and you can't do anything and you have to do a 60-day eviction and I don't have to pay you." And so they're trying to CYA, but the problem is, okay, your 30 days is here. We have a week to figure out where you're gonna move to. Why aren't we working together to get that move happening? Why aren't we just switching the rooms? There's other options inside of that. And I just wanted to bring that up because I know that it'll come in the comments. People will say things about it.
Yeah.
And we understand there's legalese that is involved in a lot of this, but that also comes into question, why did we have to make those laws? Goes back to humanity.
It does. And this is different than this is a different kind of homelessness.
Yep.
And I think part of it is they know that these people do not know their rights. I also know that Denver's resources have been there's nothing left. But I also know with human beings, you find a way to make it work. People get more, and believe me, I love dogs and I love cats and I love horses, but you will see them get more upset about the mistreatment of animals than they do about the mistreatment of the people that are coming through these places. And they're just being shipped like cargo. I mean, they're not asked if they want to go. They're not asked if where they would like to go. They're just loaded onto buses and they end up in a climate that they're not dressed for.
Yeah.
So it's, and the other thing that angers me is the mayor did say to stop while it's this cold, and they're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's going to be part of what I figure out today is making sure that he is well aware. I mean, I would like to go down, and I might go down and sit outside the mayor's office and say, would you come out and see what's going on? This is what you planned, and I honor that. I think it came from a good heart. But come see how it's being carried out, at least on our end of town.
Yeah.
Because our end of town does not have the services for these people.
No.
You know, there's nothing within walking distance for shopping, for food, for anything. You know, this was an old airport hotel, and the city bought it, and it's nice that they did that, but don't pitch them out.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm going to cut us off. I know it's a great
Yes.
conversation, and we could have it for a
Well, we
long,
could,
long time. But, Linda
thank you
and
for letting me vent.
no, you're welcome, and this is, that's why we have these platforms is so that we can have those conversations. Everybody, peak performance, talk to Linda. If you're in the Denver metro area and you would like to help, there is a Facebook group. Linda, if you'll go into Facebook later or after this is done and put links
Mm,
into our comment section, please,
mm.
on BizStorming. That way we can get that information to people. Thank you all very much. And
Or
just reach
just
out to us
contact me directly. I
or
think
contact.
contact me directly. I think the groups are kind of closed tight, so we don't have
Okay.
issues. But if you can help and you want to help, please reach out. If you scan any of these, that'll give you a way to get a hold of me.
Yep. And you can reach me, we can all work together. So we appreciate
Thank
all of you. And thank you so much for sticking in there with us and for hanging out. We appreciate it.
you.